I just went to MegaCon 2026 for the first time. And I have lots of thoughts on it. Was it busy? Yes. Was it crowded? Very. Was it chaotic? Absolutely. But despite everything that happened over the last 4 days, despite a lot of things going wrong, and I mean terribly, terribly wrong, I still was able to walk away with a pretty great experience. And maybe I have some thoughts about the way they handled certain things at MegaCon, but for the most part, it was a great experience for me, and I'm going to get into everything and why. Let me just start by saying one thing that I absolutely love about MegaCon was just the idea of going. Because as someone who has been to one convention in the past, I'm talking one very, very small one in Northern California, where I used to live. And this was called Heroes and Villains Con. It was this tiny convention where maybe we had a couple hundred people, but for the most part, we had like 2 rows that made up Artist Alley. We had like maybe a handful of celebrities. And was everything overpriced? Absolutely. But was it to the same effect of like an anime expo, a San Diego Comic-Con, a New York Comic-Con? No. It wasn't to at least the same degree as, say, those size conventions. So going into MegaCon as, a much bigger convention from my tiny one back at home, I already knew what I wanted to do. And the one thing I wanted to do was, one, go with friends this time instead of family like I did last time. But the second thing was to dress up. I wanted to dress up and actually partake in being part of the convention, being a con goer, going in and, feeling the spirit of what it means to truly be a part of that cosplay community. And one person I got to shout out is Sarah Spaceman. She's a YouTuber that I actually look up to and used a lot of inspiration and ideas from her advice on what to do when you are dressing up for the first time at a convention, and like sort of the do's and don'ts of, don't go big for your first cosplay. You shouldn't be thinking about making the perfect set of armor or the perfect suit, when what really should matter is feasibility, making sure you're able to wear it and walk around in it and really enjoy yourself at the convention while wearing your cosplay. Once you gain the skills to make something a little bit more elaborate, then go for it. But in the meanwhile, start with something small. That was kind of her advice. And so that is what I wanted to do, is I wanted to do a costume that I could easily take off. The number one thing for me, and this was a mistake that I made in college during a Halloween party. And this is only one night on Halloween. I dressed up as Spider-Man, and I bought this Spider-Man suit. It was a lot of money. It was like $80. And it was a onesie, of course. It was something that you had to zip up from the back, and the zipper was hard to get off. And it was something that, you had to take off the whole suit if you wanted to use the restroom. And as someone who needed to use the restroom that night and had to spend a good 45 seconds trying to take off my suit to use the bathroom, I do not recommend it. I did not want to do that. So when choosing the characters of what I wanted to dress up as during MegaCon, that was going through my head. It's something I can walk around in thinking like, hey, this convention's kind of going to be like a theme park, where you're going to do a lot of walking, a lot of exploring, lots of people. Maybe you should wear something that will help you navigate better and not run into a lot of issues. So the person I decided to settle on was Nightwing. And I already know what you're trying to say. Nightwing is like Spider-Man. It's a full body suit. Why would I want to do Nightwing? But this is a little bit of a different sort of costume than my Spider-Man one. Because my Spider-Man one, I just bought online. It was a mask and a full suit, and that was it. It was something I could just do very, very easily. But for Nightwing, what I wanted to do is I wanted to DIY it make it my own. Make my own Nightwing costume. And I already had like the perfect blueprint in my head. What I was going to do is, as someone who has no sewing knowledge, no knowledge about making like a leather suit, no interest in buying like a $200 to $300 one online that is going to run into the same Spider-Man problem of I need to use the bathroom, I can't take it off. What I did was I made it a 2-piece suit where I bought, and this is a brilliant idea for me, I brought compression pants, compression shirt, I bought gloves, and the only thing I bought online was the mask. And it was a 3D print of a Nightwing mask that someone made that I thought was really cool because it had this white lens. It was kind of like this wet plastic netting that was able to you were able to wear it and walk around with it. And I didn't want to do white contact lens. I've had contact lenses before for costumes. They're very itchy. It gets bothersome after a long period of time. And as someone who knew that he did not want to walk around the convention with contacts in the entire time, I was like, okay, we're not doing white contact lenses for the Nightwing costume. Okay. And that was a good call because I actually did not end up wearing the mask beyond the photo ops I took there. For the most part, I left the mask off and I'm like, thank goodness I didn't do any contacts or anything complicated. Which, again, to my point, is Sarah Spaceman's advice, which is like, don't overthink it. Don't go big. You should try and do something a little bit more feasible and smaller where you can actually enjoy yourself. And I'm glad I kind of took that advice because even though I did wear the Nightwing costume for one day at the convention, it was on Friday, MegaCon was busy. It was very chaotic. And Friday, even though it wasn't the Saturday, was a lot of people and a lot of walking around. And I guarantee you, if I wore something that I bought online for Nightwing when I needed to use the restroom or walk around in or feel comfortable in, I don't think I could pull it off. If you can pull it off, this is not dissing anyone who dressed up. I saw a lot of Nightwings too. Surprisingly, more Red Hoods. But for the Nightwings I saw at the convention, they killed it. Some of them were amazing, the costumes. I'm not dissing them. I'm just saying, for me personally, I could not wear contacts. I could not wear a one-piece suit, especially one piece. I could not wear a one-piece suit in that convention because that would just be completely insane, in my opinion. But yeah, so I went to the convention and dressed as Nightwing. And the biggest thing that I wanted to do with the costume was I wanted to be inspired by a certain run of Nightwing. And I'm talking the specific look of what Nightwing, to me, what the ideal look of Nightwing is. And surprisingly, you would think it'd be something from the animated series, especially like something like Young Justice or like Teen Titans, like the original Teen Titans, like a Nightwing design kind of similar to one of those. Or Batman, the animated series. But for me, I didn't really want to do that. Instead, what I wanted to do was Tom Taylor's run of Nightwing, Leaping into the Night. This, in my opinion, I can't talk. This, in my opinion, is one of the best, if not the best, Nightwing suit in the entire medium of comics. And it is something very simple because you have, for example, if I show this, his two Eskimo sticks at the back are just solid blue. They're very simple. And of course you have the back with the arrows. I love his suit because you also have just a very simplistic, where's a good one? It's a very simplistic bird design on the front. Very simple. So as someone who wanted to dress up as Nightwing, as someone who wanted to wear this costume, here's another look at it. I wanted to wear a costume that showcased those blues, those bright blues, because that to me is what Nightwing is. Batman wears all black to blend into the shadows and to strike fear into the hearts of criminals. That's why he's Batman. But that's not who Nightwing is. And Nightwing actually has a falling out with Batman. And the reason why he goes to Bloodhaven is because of this fallout between him and Bruce. Because Nightwing doesn't agree with the way that Bruce handles things, right? And to represent sort of who Nightwing is as a hero is almost akin to Superman. I feel like Nightwing is also kind of a combination of kind of like that light and hope that Superman has, while also being tied to the Bat family and being very much inspired by Batman. And so he'll wear this bright blue while fighting crime because he's not afraid to hide who he is. And I also love Nightwing because he's also the first Robin. And as someone who is the oldest brother of two, and I have two younger brothers. So out of three brothers, I'm the oldest. You know, I just find that Nightwing is also kind of like this really cool example of what it means to be the eldest, to be that forerunner, to be an inspiration, to lead the path forward, you know? So that was kind of like my inspiration for wanting to step into the night and become Nightwing. But would I be able to pull it off? And that question did come up a lot during my costume creation process. So I did a lot of research. I looked into a couple YouTube videos. One person said, oh, buy this $80 like armor from like, I think it was Amazon. And it was like this almost like bulletproof armor. And then he got like this, I think it was like this foam or fabric. And he cut the Nightwing symbol and glued it onto his chest. It looks pretty cool. Because he's going for more of like the Arkham Nightwing suit where it's very armored and such. For me, I took a little bit of inspiration from him. I didn't do exactly what he did because I wanted to make more of a name for myself. So what I did is I actually went on Amazon and I bought this plastic biker armor. And with this biker armor I bought, I actually decided to paint over a part of the armor so it would be a little bit more like Nightwing. And I made the design and I went through trial and error. Like I went through so much trying to make the suit like perfect. And I made some mistakes, especially with my first go ahead of trying to tape down, and I got this blue acrylic paint and I was painting over it. And I didn't realize when you do a paint job, you're supposed to unpeel the painter's tape. Because if you don't and you let it sit, it will tear and like ruin the design you're making. I did not do that. I let it sit for days and then unpeeled it and it looked awful. It was like, oh my gosh. But luckily I caught it a couple days in advance. So I just redid the paint job and repainted over everything to make it look much, much better. Another thing I messed up on was there's this little like triangle in this body armor, this biker body armor, that is where the Nightwing symbol, like the head, is supposed to be. And so originally I was going to try and paint over it, but every time I paint over it, it would like sink into the hole. So I tried painting over it again to try and fill it. But again, I ran into the same issue of it just not looking great. And I was running out of time. So what I did was I actually decided to take the paper towels I've been collecting, because one thing that I wanted to do, at least when I was making my costume, was be very, like, I guess, eco-friendly with my use of materials. So what I did is every Amazon box I bought, I would take painter's tape and I would unpack these boxes and I would tape them together to make this makeshift tarp where I could do my paint jobs outside. Or what I would do is I would save the paper towels that we'd use to cut and spread open and use that to make sort of the head of the Nightwing design. And then what I did is, as a quick fix, is I took the cardboard, wrapped it in multiple layers of the tape, And then once I did that, I painted over it and then super glued it to the chest and then painted over that. So it blended a little bit better together. You could still notice the head was like a separate piece on the costume, the chest piece. But I asked my friend and he said it looked good. And looking at the photos, because the light reflects on it in a certain way, especially with the flash for photos, it actually hides it pretty well. So it actually turned out very well. And especially since I went over lots of layers of acrylic paint and making sure that everything looked like the same color, it worked really, really well. I also took PVC pipe, like I showed before with the Nightwing Eskimo sticks, and I just painted over that. It was very simplistic. On the back, I kind of made this little triangle, and I painted over that. And then I put Velcro tape, and then put Velcro tape on the stick so I could stick it to my back. Now, the idea behind it was the Velcro would be easy to take off. So if I had my sticks like Nightwing, I would be able to take it off no problem. But the issue I ran into was it was too stuck and it was in an awkward position where I couldn't take it off. So what I had to do is I had my friend take it off for me if I turned my back to him, and then I would hold it for a photo op and then I'd have him put it back on. Yes, it wasn't annoying. It was, especially because I was expecting it to be much easier. However, carrying it around, it was almost like a backpack, was really cool because that means I could walk around the convention without holding onto these sticks and basically holding onto these props that were really only there for photo ops. So I thought that part was really cool. I painted over the mask and I super glued the little lenses. So that was really cool. And overall, when I put the ensemble of the armor together, it looked really, really good. Especially because I wore this little like plastic vest over the compression shirt and compression pants I had on, the black ones. The only thing that I did run into, and this was a big issue, was that when I was like trying on the costume, the straps that I painted blue, which would have blended in fine, unfortunately, it did not go tight enough. So it looked like it sagged, my armor. So the head was down here and the back was also down here. So you couldn't see my sticks. So it looked pretty bad. So as a quick fix, I took the extra Velcro tape I bought for the little sticks and the back of my vest to put on. And what I did was I made these like loops with the tape by taping one end onto the other. So I could make this like little loop, and I looped them together so they were much tighter, these two separate vests. And then I put these shoulder pads on top. And it looked really, really good as the final result. And to hide sort of the tape, I basically took this the little shoulder pads I still had. I had these plastic shoulder pads that came with the vest I bought, and I put Velcro tape on it. So I just took out the straps. I took the shoulder pads, put Velcro tape at the bottom, and then put them on top to hide the tape. And it looked really, really good. I was really happy on how it turned out. And as someone who also sat down during the convention and had food, I ate, what was it? I ate orange chicken, which I will get into this. I do not recommend con food. I do not recommend it at all. Because when I went with friends, we tried to go to a quiet corner. Not only was everything overpriced, it was insanely pricey to eat there. But like the food was awful. The only decent thing I've had at the con was the boba tea. And that was it. Like everything else was just not good. So if you ever go to a convention, if you ever go to MegaCon, I highly recommend you skip out on the food and go somewhere else. Because, man, that was really disappointing. Because when the orange chicken is tough to bite into, you know it's not great. When I was eating, one of the beautiful things that I did was I basically had the vest. I was able to take off the vest and put it to the side. And it was almost like a little backpack, and it stood up on its own. And so I took a selfie with it. It was actually really, really cool. And so what I did was I basically put it to the side, and just with my compression shirt and compression pants, I ate my meal. And I wasn't worried about getting food on my costume. So overall, the Nightwing suit, which I spent several weeks, this is like several weeks in the making of like buying stuff on Amazon, experimenting with stuff on Amazon, going to Michael's to buy paint supplies, to go back to Michael's to buy even more paint supplies because I ran out of certain paints, you know? This was like a huge work in progress, or work in process. I spent a lot of time outside, and during this time, Florida was very, very hot. I was sweating. I wore an apron because I got paint on me, and then the paint wouldn't come out. So I had to wear an apron because I was painting. And even though it was a lot of work, yes, after work, I would go outside and paint because I'm insane. I'm a madman. I enjoyed it. And that is one thing I think I will take away from sort of this cosplay experience is when making the Nightwing suit, when becoming Nightwing. One thing I looked forward to after every shift I have of my full-time job was coming back to work on that suit. Because whenever I would run into an issue, I'd go to work the next day, and the entire time I'm thinking, okay, how do I improve this? How do I improve this? On my break, I'd be searching up, okay, what if I try this? What if I look up, can I buy this on Amazon? It's only $20. I'll buy it. So I went and did that, and that was like awesome. Was like experimenting and finding loopholes, and you know, some things that were expensive in person, I would look online on Amazon, and I found a much cheaper alternative. So I highly recommend cosplaying, because as someone who did it for the first time, as someone who took it seriously and tried to make my own suit, to DIY it, and asking my parents for advice, especially my mom. My mom came in clutch for a lot of things. I put it together, and I was walking around, and although it wasn't maybe like the greatest Nightwing suit, it wasn't like, you know, custom made leather suit with you know, with like, you know, these light up sticks that are Nightwing. As someone who has like really bumpy dried paint on his, like on the front of it for the Nightwing emblem, as someone who has you know, tape on the back that you can notice that there's tape on the back, as someone who wore a like a very obviously painted Nightwing mask, I still walked around and I still felt proud that I made something. I didn't just, you know, go back to doing dailies in Genshin Impact. I actually sat down and made something for myself. And I want to look back at sort of what I did with the Nightwing suit as an achievement for me. Because as someone who is an artist, someone who is a filmmaker, someone who loves to support those in creative fields, making the Nightwing suit not only made me appreciative of cosplayers in general and what they have to go through, costume designers and films, especially when they make comic accurate suits in superhero movies or the One Piece live action, when they have very accurate suits to the manga and anime. What I love about making my suit was I also get to be a part of that and wear it very proudly. Because I'm Nightwing. I literally made the suit like he would. I felt like, you know, this is something he would make and spend weeks on as someone who's trying to build a name for himself. And yes, even though he is, you know, the adoptive son of Bruce Wayne, billionaire Bruce Wayne, I feel like it is very in character for Nightwing to make his own suit. Without relying on Bruce. You know, maybe he works a part-time job, or, you know, saves up money so he can get the materials to make his own suit. You know, that's kind of who I imagine Nightwing to be a little bit. Even if it's not canon, my ideal version of Nightwing is someone who, you know, is very dependent on Batman during his years as Robin, you know, as Batman's sidekick. But when he steps into the limelight, when he becomes his own person, he takes his own independence and becomes a hero, not maybe better than Batman, but on the same standing as him. And when I made that Nightwing suit, that's how I felt about myself. Is I became very independent. I didn't just buy a suit online. It was something I spent time on and made, and was able to walk away with, a pretty great smile on my face. I also want to mention I did do a second costume. Now this one I wouldn't say I love to the same effect as Nightwing. I'm not gonna say this was one of the greatest costumes I have ever made. That's still my Nightwing suit. This was more of a low, chill suit that I wanted to make last minute because I had 3 other days of the convention, and I thought, you know what? I don't want to walk around with my Nightwing suit all 4 days of the convention. I want to do a second easy costume, especially on Saturday when I know it's going to be crazy. I want to wear something that I'm able to walk around in and not stress about too much. And that was my Robert Robertson costume. If you haven't heard of him, he is from the game Dispatch. It just came out, I want to say maybe 6 months ago. I have no track of time. Maybe it's been longer. But Dispatch has been this major hit for Ad Hoc Studios. It's this PC game that came out, and I love the story because it's a superhero story in not a very traditional sense. Imagine superheroes as like a subscription service, and this company deploys superheroes to help save its subscribers. It's a weird concept, but that's kind of the idea behind Dispatch. Is you are the dispatcher sending out these heroes to help out, So I thought that Robert Robertson was a really fun character. I love sort of how the internet is divided on who he should end up with because there's a little bit of a love triangle in that game. Someone said that Dispatch is, and I quote, Twilight for dudes, and I think that's hilarious, like everyone else. But yeah, I mean that's Dispatch. So I wanted to dress up as Robert Robertson, and so what I did was a very lax costume. I went online. I bought like 2 blue shirts for like $20 on Amazon that was close enough in color to the shirt that he wears in the game because he's kind of like an office worker. I found these $20 clearance pants from Men's Warehouse. So that was awesome. I saved I think it was like $80 because usually the pants go for like $100. So that was pretty sick. And then I was going to try and pay money. I wanted to try and pay money to my friend. And I was going to give him like $50 to 3D print because he had a 3D printer. This custom Dispatch headset. So in the game, he has like this wireless headset that is a very fictional headset. It's like this high-tech eggshell color Dispatch headset that he uses to communicate with the superheroes in the field to help deploy them and let them know where they need to go. So I wanted him to 3D print it for me, and we would go about, wearing it. And I think it'd be really cool because it's like as accurate as I can be to the character, And I was willing to like commission him because I respect, my friends. I don't want to take advantage of him saying, hey, do this for free, But unfortunately, things happened. He couldn't follow through, and I understand, life happens, things happen. And so I said, you know what, dude, don't worry about it. So instead, I went to Michael's when I was doing my Nightwing costume. And when I bought the blue paint, I also bought some eggshell colored paint. And I bought these $20 headsets from Amazon. And what's really cool is it has this sort of like microphone, and it's wired. It's not wireless. And what I did is I got like this these little red, green, and blue circle stickers that I cut into squares and put on the side to represent sort of the buttons in the game. And then I also like bought this little, because it's like an actual headset, right? I bought this little USB converter for the iPhone. And if you want to know my lifesaver for the con, the lines were pretty insane. They were like 3 hours, 2 hours. And especially when I wanted to get autographs, which worth it. I will get into that, by the way. When I was waiting 3 hours for these autographs, I would plug in this headset into my phone and I'd be listening to K-pop the entire time. And it was so dope because they were noise canceling and people around me couldn't hear the music. So I didn't want to bother anyone. So pretty big dub on my part. So, I mean, you can see the costume right now for my dispatch costume. I'm very, very proud of how it turned out. And funny enough, let me get into my highlight. Not only was the costumes before the convention definitely my highlight for MegaCon, but seeing the celebrities. So I went with my friends, we got a total of 4 celebrity photo ops. We got Ji Young Yu, who is the voice of Zoe from K-pop Demon Hunters. Super nice, by the way. And everyone here, all the celebrities we met were super nice, super understanding. And I have to give them props because when we get to talking about the problems with the convention, I hope everyone feels some sympathy for them because they were the real troopers of the convention and making sure that everyone felt valued. And so I got to give them some shout outs to celebrities here. But Ji Young Yu, super nice. We met Elijah Wood, and I even said, I love you in Tron Uprising because he voiced Beck, and I thought that was really funny because everyone's there for him as Frodo because it's the 25th anniversary of Lord of the Rings. And I just went over and I'm like, I know you. You were the guy. You were Beck from Tron Uprising, which is a phenomenal show, by the way. I'm not even making fun of Tron Uprising. Tron Uprising is genuinely, I just watched it like 2 months ago for the first time. Amazing. The art design, and someone said it like inspired Spider-Verse, which I'm like 100%. I can see it. Tron Uprising was phenomenal. Canceled too soon, gone too soon. But yeah, so I said hi to Elijah Wood. But then I also saw Orlando Bloom, and then I saw Arden Cho, who is the voice of Rumi. And yeah, Orlando Bloom, yeah, he was Legolas, and then he was Will Turner from Pirates of the Caribbean, if you want to know. So, yeah, those were the 4 photo ops we got. They were all super nice, and I enjoyed seeing them, and also just having the photos and having like, even if it was like 2 lines of dialogue with them of saying, hi, I love you in this, bye, or thank you, I appreciate you. That's what I would do, is I would walk up and I'm like Orlando Bloom. I'm like, hi. And then I'm like, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about those celebrities in a bit. When I go into my little rant about MegaCon in general. But I want to focus on another highlight. So there are 2 different ways you can meet celebrities at MegaCon. Now, it could be the same across the board, but I just want to put it out there. This is how MegaCon operates things. So they have the autographs, which you could meet for every major celebrity. You usually can meet them for autographs and they'll sign something. It depends on price, and it can change too, which I learned at the tables, where it could be a little bit more expensive or cheaper based on what you're signing. And so you can go in, and for celebrities, people like autographs. You wait forever. You wait like 3 hours to meet them. But what's nice about the autographs is the reason why it takes so long is because they spend a good like a minute to 2 minutes talking to you. And if you want that personal interaction with your favorite celebrity, I highly recommend doing a selfie or autograph at their table because you will get that. One thing I also really liked that happened at MegaCon was the photo ops we took were of celebrities that were big that, I personally didn't have too much to say to them. Aside from like, I like you in this, you're awesome, compared to say like a mega fan of Arden Cho, who people know her back from her acting days. I'm not that big of a fan of Arden Cho. I just know her from K-pop Demon Hunters. Or, like Orlando Bloom. I'm not like the biggest diehard, Lord of the Rings fan, or, Pirates of the Caribbean fan, or what's another one that he's in? I guess those 2, right? But like I'm not like the biggest fan when it comes to Orlando Bloom. So I thought the photo op was great because it was just sort of an in and out. I took a picture with him I think he's a cool dude to take a photo of because I recognize him in Pirates of the Caribbean, which I like, you know. So I got that. That was cool. But for the autographs, I was aiming to do 4 celebrities for the autographs. And this was like my side quest. This is something that my main group of friends, you know, I wasn't trying to force them to join me because I knew that this was a little bit more niche. For the celebrities like K-pop Demon Hunters, yeah, everyone's a big fan of K-pop Demon Hunters. Or Orlando Bloom, everyone loves Orlando Bloom. Or Elijah Wood, yeah, we all like Elijah Wood. I know, right? But for the autograph specifically, I was aiming to do the voice actors that they announced. And the 4 big ones I wanted was Alejandro Saab. It was and I'm blanking on her name, so I'll just go Alex Lee. Alex Lee was the big one for me because Alex Lee voices Solo Leveling. He's in a bunch of stuff now, including now Daredevil in Marvel Rivals, which I play like a lot of Marvel Rivals. I even play it on stream. Like, come on. So yeah, I play that. And there's also, of course, his voice work in Persona 3 Reload. And, you know, I was going to say, Alex Lee is in a lot. He's even in Demon Slayer, the Demon Slayer dub, which I don't watch Demon Slayer dubbed. I only watch it subbed. But the fact that he's in it, I mean, it's okay. He's pretty big, okay? So he was my number 1. Another big one I really wanted to see was the Zach Aguilar, who is the voice actor for Aether. Also Tanjiro. Yeah, again, Demon Slayer dubcast was all here. They had Shinobu, they had Tanjiro, they had Zenitsu, and Zenitsu was Alex Lee. But I wasn't there for the Demon Slayer dub. I was there because I wanted him to sign my Aether poster. Because I really, really like Genshin Impact. It's probably my favorite game right now. So what was nice is when I was waiting in line and I spent like 3 hours waiting, I was able to, when I was wearing my Robert Robertson costume, which I think was all 3 days I went, I waited in line for the celebrity autographs. And funny enough, Alex Lee, I came up in costume and he's like, wait, you're from the guy from Dispatch, right? And I'm like, you got it. Alex Lee knows ball. Alex Lee knows Dispatch. Zach Aguilar didn't know, but he voices Aether, so I give him a pass. So yeah, I mean, so that was like really cool. It's like I got to see them, and I also got to see the voice actress for Venti. And Venti is like a really funny Archon for me in Genshin Impact because he is, or I guess Venti is one of the strongest characters in game. Yet he's like this lovable drunk bard, you know, who's very free-spirited, which is very much the nature of Mondstadt. So I was able to meet and I can't believe I keep blanking on her name. That's like the one thing too that like annoys me is I have these like celebrity names and I just completely forget about it. Like I almost forgot Zach Aguilar for a second. Erica Harlaker. Erica, there we go. Yeah, Erica was so sweet. But yeah. So anyways, where was I before I cut away? Erica, yeah. So Erica, I also saw her and she was really nice. So overall, like the convention was like the main things I wanted to do was to see the celebrities, get their photo ops, and also meet the voice actors, especially because 3 of them were like big names that I played, or like I had all right, Alejandro I didn't get to meet because he voices you know when you want to say something and you can't because you forget and then you're so dumb. Sino, thank you. He voices Sino in Genshin Impact. So I had 3 Genshin voice actors at this con. I wanted to try and get all of them, and then also Alex Lee because he voices Sung Jin Woo from Solo Leveling. So yeah. So I mean overall, like before I get into a mess because my mind's all over the place. Okay, I apologize, guys. But overall, the voice actors, when I got to meet them, with the exception of Alejandro, because I ran out of time to see him, but he seemed like a really nice guy from what I've been seeing in his interactions with his fans. But I saw Alex Lee on Saturday, which is crazy. I know, the busiest time, but that was like the first thing I did is I went straight there, and they cut off his line like not even like 20 minutes upon opening, and they made a virtual queue for this guy. But to also be fair, Alex Lee also announced that unfortunately he wasn't able to stay until Sunday. So Saturday was his last day. So like me, everyone was like panicking to try and see Alex Lee. So I get it. I get it, you know? But Alex Lee, if you're listening, I know it's 40 minutes into this video, so you're probably not listening. You probably don't know who I am. But I'm the dude who walked up to you in that dispatch costume. And I just wanted to thank you so much because you were so nice. Like his voice was deep. I could tell he was exhausted because, you know, it's been a busy 3 days and he's just been nonstop, which all these voice actors, by the way, and the staff, I can't speak to the entire staff of MegaCon because some people had problems with some staff members being rude. But for the staff running the voice actor area of where I wanted, which was like, I think it was Alex Lee, Erica Harlaker, it was Zach Aguilar, Alejandro and Sab, and then I think it was the voice actress for Ash Ketchum. I think Veronica something. So they were all like right next to each other in this lane. All the staff there were super nice. They were like, so sorry, we're cutting off this line right now because they have to get to this panel, but please come back at this time and we will be right with you. They were so professional and so nice. And I was so happy with the way that they were to me. I even like thanked them multiple times at the end of the, on Sunday because they were just incredible. But the voice actors all on that side too, were very respectful. They took some extra time on each person that came to see them. And yes, were we paying a lot of money for their autographs? Were we paying a lot of money for selfies? Absolutely. But like, you could tell they were working for it. They were seeing probably hundreds of people a day and have personal interactions, being very nice, being very considerate to everyone that came up to their booth. I thought it was amazing. So I got to give a shout out to Erica, Zach, and Alex for just putting on an amazing show. And also meeting me. Like, they were so nice to me. And I even got a picture with Zach. I'll put that up on screen. We did a selfie. He even said, like, come closer because I felt a little awkward next to him. Because, you know, he's kind of like my hero. I'm like, dude, you're Aether. Especially with everything happening, Nod crying, Colabina. I'm like, do I have the right to stand next to you? Because they do incredible work. Like you, Alex Lee had that phenomenal season 2 finale with his fight against Beru with the OST. I even told him, I'm like, dude, the OST was amazing. It was like incredible. And even jokes were like, yeah, manhwa adaptations aren't great right now. And he's very fortunate that Solo Leveling actually got a pretty damn good adaptation compared to like a lot of other manhwa adaptations. I'm like, dude, I get it. But he also like went up. Alex Lee also went about talking about how it was him and his team. He didn't just say it was me. He also made sure to like mention, oh yeah, no, it was me and my team. I'm so fortunate to have such a great team working with me on creating the show. And I thought that was like, I thought that was a really good like moment for him, at least. Like a very it was very humble of him to do that. I really like Erica too, because she was also like trying to help, you know, making sure everyone got their autographs and was super nice to everyone, was nice to her staff, you know, and she even was like, try to like, so as someone who works in customer service, as someone who has faced guests before, I know what it's like when you have a lot of people and you have to talk to them over and over and over again. And it's easy to just repeat the same things over and over again to each guest. But what I liked about Erica was she also like, she talked about more Genshin Impact with the person before me. And then when she came up to me, she asked me how my day was going, how the con was going, who I saw, what was my highlights. And I thought that was really cool of her. to just be social and like giving me the time and treating me like, you know, the value. Like I spent time to be there and wait for her, and she recognized that and took extra time for me and made that effort to connect with me, and I appreciated that, you know. And same with Zach. Zach was like super apologetic. People were complaining to his face, so yet he, you know, was remained patient. When people would like complain to him about like, why were you late? Because some of them showed up like 30 minutes late to an hour late. But they were like all upset. But as someone who's worked in entertainment, as someone who understands delays happen, it's sometimes out of people's control, whether it's traffic, whether something happens behind the scenes, you know, a lot of things can happen. So when they were late, I was just like, I'm just gonna be patient because I know, you know, it could be something out of their control. You know, just take it with a grain of salt that the reason why they're late has to do something beyond like not wanting to be there, you know. So I appreciated also watching sort of Zach kind of be a little bit more professional, especially when people were trying to give him a little bit of grief for being late. I appreciated sort of him still being professional, being like, yeah, so sorry. You know, some things happen outside of like my control, but I want to make it up to you. You know, he was very apologetic and like very understanding. So I thought that was pretty cool of him. You know, I as someone who has dealt with that before, and when I went up, I even joked, I'm like, dude, I've been here since, and this is also on Saturday, the busiest time. So when I went up, or no, this is Sunday. This is Sunday. Yeah, the last day. So I went up to him on Sunday, and this is right after, and I'm like, dude, I understand. I've also been here since Thursday. I know you've been here all 4 days. Like, even major celebrities, like, only showed up on Saturday and Sunday. It's really only, like, the voice actors that have been there all 4 days. So they are working extra hard, okay? They are actually pushing themselves to make sure that they leave an impact on those, a Genshin impact, if you will. So I just wanted to give them their flowers on top of the staff because, you know, as much as, yes, you are shoveling a lot of money into, you know, their time and them being there by providing them. There was a lot of people sneaking photos, people stopping, taking photos on the sides when, you know, they're not really supposed to. I know people like to record their voices, especially with like, you know, AI happening and taking, you know, voice actors, you know, especially when it comes to, I think, was it auto AI dubs on Crunchyroll? That's like becoming a big issue. I don't think it's Crunchyroll. It was something else. Maybe Crunchyroll, but it was like one studio was pushing AI dubs. Like when that's a problem and you listen to AI dubs versus like actual voice actors, there's a clear difference. And the problem is people are trying their best to convince everyone that AI dubs are superior or easily replacing the voice actors, which as someone who respects artistry, we shouldn't allow this as consumers. We should not allow AI to take over these jobs when it results in a drop in quality. And it's because of this like sort of brainwashing of not understanding the nuances that come with voice acting or not understanding the talent when you see a performance. I think it's an issue. So when I saw things of like, hey, please don't record the voice actors. Please don't like take photos of them without their permission, because, you know, it's a paid option. It's a like, yes, a selfie costing money is kind of ridiculous. I can understand that, but the selfie is actually more of a, they'll come around, they'll hand the staff member the phone, and you get a photo with them on your phone. So it's less of this and more of like, it's just like a photo op without the fancy camera and stuff. Plus I also said you also get like a really good interaction with them, which again, that's like my one takeaway as someone who went to MegaCon for the first time is I recommend everyone when they go into MegaCon, when you are deciding between autographs and photo ops, do photo ops with celebrities that you want to show people you saw and you're happy you took a photo with. But for the ones you want to spend time with, like for me, it was the voice actors, do the autographs. I do not regret it because I actually had some really fun conversations with these people. And I realized too that they're very down to earth. And they also have some of the same issues that I do, you know, where they do get tired. And as much as they wanted to complain about it, I'm absolutely sure they wanted to complain about how tired they were. They powered through, they still kept their spirits up for the fans, you know? And I thought that was awesome. Yeah, so that was sort of like kind of my highlights of MegaCon. One thing I also want to do really quickly is I kind of want to showcase all of the art that I got. So I'll be right back. So in this big bag, let's see what I got at MegaCon. All right, so really quickly, before we get into what I got, autographs I bought, merchandise I bought in Artist Alley, I want to quickly say something also, not only about the voice actors and celebrities, but about Artist Alley in general. Because what is really, really cool about Artist Alley was I almost for certain saw that the majority of the art, the prints, everything on sale wasn't AI. And some of it was really obviously not AI. And as someone who was a little bit worried about MegaCon, and I've heard problems about conventions, you know, how there was an increase in AI art being sold, I appreciated that, you know, that even when you saw a lot of Gunnar art, a lot, and I'm not even talking about the dudes, ladies, I'm also talking about, you know, your male fantasy, also BLs. I saw a lot of Love and Deep Space. I saw even crazy Bowser art, if you know what I mean. I saw everything. So yeah. But Artist Alley I thought was great, and I just want to give sort of a shout out to some of the art I bought, in addition to the autographs and that I received at MegaCon. So I know this video is nearing an hour. I promise I'm going to be wrapping up soon after I talk about sort of the bad things. But first, let me get into the art. I also want to give a shout out to the artists because I'm showcasing their art sort of in this video. So everything that has been in this video, I hope I can credit right. So this first person I want to shout out is, her name is, I think it's right here. It's called Julian Doodles. And what I really like about her is when I went with my friends, my friend went up and talked about, oh my gosh, I like your art, and had this whole conversation. And my friend was actually saying, like, if you have conversations with the artists, it actually is like a really fun time, and you get to learn about their process and also just have a nice conversation with them and connect with them. And my friend is an artist too. So she dressed up as, it was actually really funny. She dressed up as Aizawa from My Hero Academia. And so she had these Aizawa stickers she was passing out. And so she passed the sticker over to this vendor saying, here, have it. You know, you recognize my costume. And I think it's really fun if I just pass these out in the con. And they actually did a trade. So I wanted to quickly give this person a shout out because they were really nice to my friend. They gave sort of this sticker back to her. So they traded stickers. And I thought that was really cool. And I also like the art too. So I got a bunch of Pokemon art from her, Julian Doodles. I got this really cool Pokemon, like Korean barbecue mukbang going on. It's like a postcard. I thought that was really cool. My Neighbor Totoro. I love how innocent some Studio Ghibli films are, and My Neighbor Totoro's definitely up there. But he's with the Snorlax. I thought that was really, really cute. And then the third one I actually got. This is actually one of my favorite Studio Ghibli films of all time. I think it is top 2. I still am debating which one. If I should take it. Here's the thing. I would put this number 1, but number 1 for Studio Ghibli for me is Castle in the Sky. Could this film replace it? Maybe, but I also don't want to drop Castle in the Sky. So I'm going to leave it at number 2. But I love Ponyo. I grew up with Ponyo. That ramen scene is so iconic, and I have to say, I just love the art. Julian Doodles, she was also super nice to me when I was buying it. So I wanted to support her. And I bought like 3 things of art from her because not only do I love her art, but she was a really nice person. And I like to give, I like to give back, especially when it comes to, just nice people and nice community members, you got to support artists. Now, another one I want to shout out is actually a friend of mine. I actually knew them before MegaCon, and she also does some amazing art. And I ran into her at the con. I realized she was running a booth, and we stopped by. We said hi. I thought it was funny. We kind of ambushed her, and as a way to support her, I bought a couple art pieces. She even gave me a free sticker, and she didn't really have to, so that was really nice of her. But I bought these really cool, fantastic 4 art pieces. It's Heroes Bazaar art. I'm going to show it right here if you want to support this artist. I think this is the handle for social media. Right there. Perfect. But yeah, I just like Fantastic Four. My favorite member is Sue Storm for a reason. But besides that comment, I actually enjoy the Fantastic Four movie. I actually really like First Steps. I actually thought I wasn't really gonna like Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic, but I actually thought he was fine in the movie. And I thought it was just a solid movie overall, So I wanted to give a shout out to those 2 because those were sort of like the smaller booths. And they were really nice to my friends, and I just like the art, and I like supporting small artists, especially when some of the art nowadays that they're trying to pump out with the AI art is being sold for like buckets of money, and I don't understand why. It's AI art. Why would you spend money on that? That's crazy. All right, so next up was a bigger booth, so they probably had like a lot more money, but I enjoy their booth because, one, I didn't feel like it was AI art. So that's a plus. It's called Tarvita Art. This is like the little business card that came with it. So yeah, really cool. And you'll see why. I bought 3 prints from them because they said buy 2 get 1 free. And I'm like, okay, fine. You twisted my arm. And you'll see why. Because as someone who has a One Piece spanner behind me, that does wonders for my stream room. It does wonders because there's no empty space behind me anymore. But I feel like I still need more like posters in my room because my room, it looks like white walls. Like I'm in like, solitary confinement. Like, what am I doing? I'm going crazy, I need color in my room. So I wanted to buy a couple more posters. So of course, as a One Piece fan, I got this really, really cool poster. And it's a We Are, which is the opening to One Piece, with the Straw Hat members. And it's like a little play button, like an Apple Music. And as someone who religiously likes to listen to anime openings on Apple Music, I'm like, okay, I gotta get it. And they had a couple other posters. Now, you see the trend, right? You see the trend where it's like, okay, it's clearly an opening and it's art of a show, right? They had Chainsaw Man and they had Kickback. And this one's yellow. And I'm like, dude, this is so cool. As someone who loves Kickback, like just the visuals of that opening alone, where it's like a nod to cinema, like I had to get it, okay? And then third, of course, you can't go wrong with sort of like the big 3 right nowadays. Jujutsu Kaisen, Lost in Paradise, which, funny story about the ending song of Lost in Paradise. Remember how it actually got taken off Apple Music because like the drummer or something got arrested, and so they had to take it down for some reason, and then they put it back up. Yeah, that's why. But Lost in Paradise was so good, and I'm glad it's back on Apple Music. Yeah, I love these art pieces because I'm like, dude, they're big and they showcase my favorite openings. And they came with a free plastic sheet too. Did it cost a little bit of money? Yeah. Did I splurge? Absolutely. But was it worth it? Yes. Yes. And then I did mention before about my celebrity autographs with the voice actors. With Zach Aguilar. So the way I did it was they had they had prints at the table. So when you bought an autograph, you could either get something that you brought signed or one of the prints at the table signed. And so I chose to opt to get the print at the table. I got this nice Aether poster. And he's using the Electro Element, the Electro Vision. And it's just so cool because it's Inazuma. And I got him to sign it in orange, Zach Aguilar. So that was pretty dope. And then with Erica Harlaker, of course, she's Venti, you know, the Animo Archon. And there's this giant art piece that she signed. And it's so cool. I love it. So I got that one too. And I thought that was pretty dope. And then, of course, I can't be forgetting my GOAT Alex Lee coming in clutch. And funny story about the Alex Lee thing. So Alex Lee, I went in expecting it to be like $80 because it was a premium autograph. I thought it was going to be more because I wanted to get my manga signed. And I thought because it had volume to it, they were going to treat it as a premium autograph and, you know, sign it. But I learned manga counts as the basic option. So I only paid half. So I spent the other 40 on getting a poster too. So I got this really cool solo leveling poster signed by Alex Lee with a really dope autograph. So that's really cool. I could put up in my room. And when I went to Barnes and Noble the other day, I went purposely because I wanted to buy volume 1 of Solo Leveling because I don't have physical manhwa copies, but I wanted to buy one because I knew I was gonna go see Alex Lee, and I had him sign the cover with my name. So that was a pretty good haul. So for Artist Alley and everything at MegaCon, I thought all this stuff was amazing. So what did I think about MegaCon overall? We talked about the stuff I bought. We talked about my love for celebrities, especially the voice actors and how nice they were. And I enjoyed making the costumes and finding a real joy in making cosplay my hobby, you know? But was MegaCon perfect? Was MegaCon like something where you can continuously go and always have a great time? No. And I only learned this after. This was near the end, especially on Saturday. I kind of noticed some things. But near the end, I looked up, because I'm part of the Facebook group for MegaCon, some of the underlying issues with MegaCon. And I started to agree with a lot of things of what people were saying. And the main thing is leadership and the con direction from management. And this is the biggest issue, in my opinion, that I saw from MegaCon. Because when we went to see the Orlando Bloom, I'm going to get into Orlando Bloom right now. Up until this point, we did Ji Young Yu, and we did Elijah Wood. Those went smoothly. The autographs, no problem. They were on time. When we went for Orlando Bloom, the photo ops for Orlando Bloom were on the other side of the convention. The complete other side of the convention from the regular photo ops. Do you know how we knew this? Because someone in the Facebook group let us know that. The con did not let us know that Liv Taylor, John Cena, and Orlando Bloom were going to be in their separate areas for their photo ops. And it's only because we learned this a couple hours prior, we were able to adjust and make it over fine. What we also didn't know was that we thought we needed a special pass to access those photo ops because they were different. However, they failed to tell us that's only if you have a special package. If you don't have a special package of autograph and photo op, you do not need the special pass printed out and handed to you, the special ticket. You just need to go straight there, which is what we had, which is just a normal photo op. There was no communication from MegaCon, no direction anywhere to letting con goers know where to go. And it was only because I had a friend that went last year who knew about the different sectioned off celebrity photo ops and how they were spread apart from each other that we figured out that this was a thing. And this is something that I saw a lot of, is the con had these things going on of like, hey, we have different areas, but failed to let anyone know. And it's only because veterans have experienced it before that they weren't able to run into this issue. For new people, good luck. And thankfully, I was with someone who already has been through that process, because that would have been dreadful. Some similar issues I saw were accessibility and communication across the board. Now, I mentioned the staff earlier because I wanted to glaze them, because everyone from the voice actors and even the photo ops I've talked to was super nice and super helpful. I also read reports that some of them were very, very rude to people when they were asking questions. And some of them did not know the answers to some of the questions that people were asking them. And it wasn't that, they were trying to hide things from them. They were trying to be mean to these people. They were just not communicated from con management where things were. And I don't think that should have been a thing, especially when it comes to, photo ops with Orlando Bloom, John Cena, the big hitters, Liv Taylor. Why are we not telling people about like the differences if you have a different photo op? At least if you buy a John Cena photo op or buy an Orlando Bloom photo op, let them know when you purchase, it's going to be in a different section. Why are we not communicating this with everyone, So that was another big issue. And I also read some horrible things about accessibility and how, some people had to take the stairs or were directed to take elevators. I know some staff were told you couldn't let people leave the con in certain areas, even though the drop-off is right next to these doors, yet the con's like, you can't leave there for some reason. That was a little bit weird. They didn't do anything about the scammers outside who were charging people hundreds of dollars for a 5-minute bike ride, which I'll give them a little bit of leeway there. I don't know if the con can do anything about scammers, but because that's like outside the building. But at least inside the building, like what's with the accessibility and what's with like not communicating or cutting off lines for people who prepaid for autographs, So like, although I may have not run into the same issues as other people, the only thing I've seen with poor con management on our end was the Orlando Bloom photo op on Saturday. And this is because we had to find where to go. And luckily, we had a couple hours to find where we needed to head and ran into no issues there. When we eventually found where we needed to go. But Orlando Bloom was late by 3 hours. And you think, okay, is it his fault? And this is where you learn something from this con staff. And this is like an hour in. And this is already an hour past our reserved time. The con staff tells us that Orlando Bloom is tied up doing photo ops on the other side of the convention for all these team up photo ops with these other celebrities with guests. And once they finish up there, then they can make their way over there. And then after us, then they can make their way over to do their autographs. And unfortunately, they cannot move on to the autographs until they finish the photo ops. We did not get our photos done until 30 minutes before closing. And they were still going through photo ops. And they had to go through autographs. And there's huge lines, like massive lines for autographs. I heard some of them got cut off. People waited in line for hours, longer than the people waiting for photo ops, and they got cut off. They could not get their autographs with Orlando Bloom because the con had oversold him. And poor Orlando Bloom, the dude has been dragged all over to do photo ops every which way and then do autographs every which way, while also being nice despite everything and clearly being very exhausted, you know? So the fact that this happened in the first place goes to show that this is on con management. This needs to be addressed. As someone who has been here to MegaCon for the first time, this feels like something that should not happen, especially when people prepay for something and then you're telling them that they cannot meet this certain celebrity because, you know, they're delayed because they oversold too many, you know, Lord of the Rings passes because they wanted more money, you know? I don't know. I just have like, I just feel for not only the people waiting, but for the celebrities too. And I also heard some other things about some of the voice actors too, is like the con was very like rude to them and like with their time constraints for some reason. So yeah, like I would say, was this like the worst experience ever for me as like a first time for MegaCon? No. I also really don't have any years to compare it to, but based on what my friend said, who went last year, it was like a huge improvement because she had a group to go with. So what I will say is a couple of things we did to make sort of MegaCon great for us was I went with people who have been to previous MegaCons. I think that helped a lot. Being a part of a group also helped a lot because that meant that throughout the whole con, you could spend time with people, and when it was overwhelming, you can all move as a group to like quieter areas and just chill and hang out. Yeah, so I will say overall, do I think MegaCon is something that like you should avoid at all costs? Is it the worst convention ever? No, I don't think it's the worst convention ever. I've been and I've seen worse conventions during my time. Not usually going, but hearing and like doing research on conventions where, you know, I remember one, I forgot what convention it was. Was it Anime Expo? It was like Anime Expo or something else, like a smaller con. But in Artist Alley, like a pipe overhead burst and ruined someone's stall. Nothing like that happened at Artist Alley at MegaCon. We did have the fire alarms go off. That was kind of funny. And no one did anything. So it was like a nothing burger, but yeah, but like overall, a lot of it went well, but it's also due to my planning and us. Thankfully, we didn't book too many celebrities. And also what helped too is we also, when we were doing the photo ops, so you can do up to 4 people in a photo op. We split it 4 ways. That's how we do it. So the cost isn't like egregious. If it's like, you know, $200 to meet a celebrity, it actually ends up being $50 per person. So it's not like bad. You know what I mean? So definitely come in with a plan. Definitely go with people. And I would avoid Saturday. If you don't deal great with large crowds of people, avoid Saturday at all costs. But Thursday, Friday, and Sunday are all good. They're much better and easily more manageable, for sure. But yeah, so that's kind of like my MegaCon story. That's sort of my journey. I know we talked over an hour, but I kind of wanted to get everything off my chest and just share my experiences as someone who is really trying to put himself out there and go to more of these events and be more social. I also want to say, like, if you want to see amazing cosplays and like such passionate communities, go to a convention because they're walking all over, and I'm so impressed by cosplays. I'm so impressed by the spirit, the enthusiasm, the joy of going to these conventions and just having a great time. I was actually just surprised on how big MegaCon ended up being, like in size. It was kind of insane. But yeah, that's kind of like my MegaCon story. And if you guys went to MegaCon, let me know in the comments what you thought of it. If you saw me somehow or remember vaguely seeing a Nightwing or Robert Robertson walking around, I think that'd be fun if you said you saw me at MegaCon if you went. Let me know if you had any issues with MegaCon. Like, I had issues with the Orlando Bloom photo op, but it wasn't because of Orlando Bloom. It was because of the con management. I know the stupid exit thing where you had to go through a specific door on the other side to then go all the way around the building to get to the Uber drop off and pickup was annoying. Which also, yeah. The Uber drop off and pickup was chaotic. Wasn't the worst thing ever, but I can see why people had gripes with it. That was pretty bad. But yeah, so what did you think? Do you guys want to go to MegaCon if you haven't been yet? If you have been to MegaCon, how does this compare to previous years? Or if it's your first time like me, let me know everything you guys want. Let me know I can't talk. I've been talking a lot. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Yeah, I guess I'll end this video here. I just want to get my thoughts out really quickly in this kind of like low effort video. Because I have a lot of thoughts and I like to yap. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'll catch you all when I stream or post a video next, which we'll see.